Desperate and alone, she turned to a stranger. What happened next will leave you amazed. Emma pushed her cart with two wiggly children seated in its front, her heart uneasy as she maneuvered the grocery store aisles. Each item she picked smashed against the weight of her reality, empty shelves in her refrigerator and a mounting flood of bills waiting at home. Losing her job at the diner felt like a sinking stone dragging her deeper into a void, and the light in her children's eyes only deepened her despair. She scolded herself for not being strong enough, not providing enough. "This isn't what I promised," she whispered under her breath, the shame curling around her heart like an iron band. She froze in front of the community board when her eyes caught a flyer. "Nursing program, flexible night classes," it read, and a familiar spark ignited in her chest. Her teenage dream, long tucked away and faded. But doubt surged, a tidal wave crashing into her hopeful shore. She could almost hear her parents' voices echoing in her mind. "Why take risks? Stability is what you need. Embrace low-wage work. It's realistic." Every word clawed at her, each syllable thickening the distance between her dreams and the suffocating safety they championed. As she surveyed the flyer again, excitement and fear warred within her. What if she failed? What if this wasn't meant for a girl like her? Her children deserved better than a mother who chased shadows. Just as she turned to leave, a voice broke through her thoughts. "You know you can do this, right?" A tall man stood next to her, his presence both comforting and unnerving. Jack's smile felt disarming, almost too perfect in that moment of doubt, and his words sank into her like stones landing in the water, disturbing her fragile surface. Despite her instinct to retreat, Jack persisted, walking her through applications and deadlines as if guiding her through a maze. An internal storm brewed. Could she really trust him? There was a risk in opening herself up to a stranger, but his gentle encouragement pulled her along. Each form she signed felt like a step toward freedom, a chance to break her cycle of despair. Still, anxiety gripped her tighter. The whispers of town gossip buzzed around her, those who would see her dreams as foolish, especially given her circumstances. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the days merged into sleepless nights, her world became a whirlpool of exhaustion and uncertainty. Late shifts at the diner stretched her thin while her studies gnawed at her resolve. Faced with judgment from classmates who were unyielding in their scrutiny, Emma found her spirit faltering. What if she wasn't cut out for this? What if Jack was just a fleeting mirage, a kindness that would vanish when reality hit? Just as she found a rhythm, chaos erupted when accusations flew towards Jack, swirling through the whispers of the town like wildfire. He became a figure shrouded in suspicion, and Emma's faith began to fray. Could she still trust him? When she learned the fight wasn't only for her future but against a spectral past, the emotional weight doubled. With each thread of truth she unraveled about Jack, she felt as if she was balancing on the edge of a precipice. Would she take the leap into uncertainty, or cling to the familiar ground of safety that her parents had always embraced? As the stakes grew higher, Emma stood at the precipice of her own life, her heart racing with urgent questions about loyalty, ambition, and the courage to make choices that could shatter her world or finally set her free. Emma felt the tightness in her chest as she stepped into the classroom for the first day of her night nursing program. The fluorescent lights hung overhead, casting a harsh glare that contrasted sharply with the warm light of her home. She took a deep breath, trying to harness the lingering excitement from the flyer that first called to her a notion that she had a future worth fighting for. But as the instructor initiated the introductions, her pulse quickened. "Let us go around the room," the instructor announced. "Share your name, your background, and why you're here." The confident declarations of her classmates made her feel smaller. Here were young adults, brimming with ambition, some even sporting scrubs from previous experiences. Emma swallowed hard, her mind racing. How could she compete with them? When her turn arrived, she hesitated but forced the words out, each one splintering the wood of her confidence. I'm Emma. I'm a single mother of 2, and I want to build a better life for my children. There was a brief pause, a thin veil of silence that felt suffocating, and then she sensed the scrutiny shift away from her. Just another struggling mother, they likely thought. The weight of invisibility stung. The first few classes kicked off with technical jargon and clinical skills that sent her mind whirling. Emma struggled to grasp the terminology, grappling with the complexities of anatomy. A small part of her wondered if this was a fool's dream. Should she be home with her kids? The gnawing guilt returned like an unwelcome shadow. Yet with her full calendar filled with classes, shifts at the diner, and the responsibilities of motherhood, every dawning moment seemed to flicker with potential for growth or for ultimate failure. In her moments alone, Emma wrestled with herself in quiet anguish. Maybe I'm not cut out for this, she whispered to the empty kitchen at home, tears pooling in her eyes. She could already hear the echoes of judgment rippling through the town, the whispers about the woman who dared to aspire for something more than waitress uniforms and paycheck-to-paycheck living. But her resolve propelled her forward. One evening, she discovered a study group forming in the library. The name Nursing Women United sparkled on a flyer. Her heartbeat quickened as she took it, a glimmer of a hesitant smile creeping across her face. Could there be others like her? Women not just studying to ignore life's challenges but embracing them. At the first meeting, she was greeted by fellow mothers navigating their own difficult paths, proudly sharing their stories. I almost gave up, one woman said, but I reminded myself the more I know, the better life my kids will have. The room lit up with emboldened energy, igniting an ember in Emma's heart. Slowly, she started to articulate what she felt. A sense of kinship flourished among them, and for the first time, the doubt in her mind began to soften. One evening, as they were organizing a study plan, Jack appeared, his warm smile casting a familiar glow. The group parted like a curtain, his eyes finding Emma's. I knew you'd find a community, he said with pride, and for the first time, Emma sensed that he was not just a fleeting moment but a catalyst for her growing ambitions. Yet, as they delved deeper into their studies, whispers about Jack intensified. Unease crept through the fabric of their support. Emma's heart waged war against itself. Could she trust him with this newfound dream, especially with the growing, shadowy doubts woven into the fabric of her world? The semester pressed on, but the atmosphere felt heavier. One late night, she glanced at her coursework, then at her sleeping children. The path ahead shimmered with hope, but alongside it loomed a darkness she couldn't shake. Would she have the bravery to confront the burgeoning suspicions surrounding Jack? Time was running out. Soon, she'd have to decide if she would step forward, staking her fragile dreams on her instincts, or wearily retreat into the shadows of safety and self-doubt. As she stared at the door, ready to face whatever came next, the stakes felt higher than ever. What if this is the moment that changes everything? Emma questioned silently, the tension suffusing her resolve. Tomorrow would force her hand into a confrontation that could either bolster her journey or send it crashing. Would she possess the courage to finally pull back the veil of uncertainty? The next day rose with the kind of crisp clarity that often comes before a storm, and Emma felt the weight press heavily on her chest. Each tick of the clock echoed ominously, reminding her that time was not on her side. As she prepared for class, questions danced chaotically in her mind. What exactly would she say to Jack? Would confronting her feelings expose her vulnerability in ways she wasn't prepared to face? "Mom, are you going to be home after class?" her daughter, Lily, asked, her small hands eagerly clutching a mismatched sock. Each question from her children was like a thread weaving into the fabric of her resolve. Emma knew she couldn't falter, not when they looked at her with such reverence and hope for their own futures. "Of course, sweetie," she replied, though her heart wavered. The classroom felt charged with anticipation as she entered, the usual chatter subdued. Jack was already there, seated at the front, his head bent over notes. For a fleeting moment, Emma considered the comfort of silence, retreating once more into an unassuming corner to avoid the brewing tension. But as she took a deep breath, she steeled herself against the whisper of retreat. Jack looked up, and while his face bore the warmth she had come to associate with safety, doubt gnawed at her insides. She approached him, every step requiring a conscious effort to quell the avalanche of anxiety within. "Hey, can we talk?" she managed, her voice a whisper barely loud enough over the ambient noise. He smiled, but in his gaze, Emma read something deeper, curiosity mixed with concern. "Sure. What's up?" They stepped outside into the hall, and just as Emma began to frame her thoughts, the words spilled out unfiltered. "I've been feeling uneasy about how comfortable I've gotten with you. It's just that I don't want to get hurt, and I can't let anyone jeopardize this path I'm on." The earnestness in her voice cut through her usual avoidance. Jack didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned in slightly, his interest piqued. "I understand. Starting something new is always a risk, especially when you have so much at stake." In that moment, Emma felt both seen and understood. Her mind raced as she absorbed his words. Was he aware of the doubts creeping in around him, the whispers she had overheard? "You need to know how much this means to me. If you're here for the wrong reasons." "Emma, I'm here to support you, not to pull you away," he interrupted, sincerity shining through his eyes. But the air was heavy, and Emma's heart thudded against the confines of her chest. His empathy felt like a fleeting gift, complicating her feelings further. Despite the palpable tension, something deep within her began to shift. She realized that in sharing her fears, she was asserting ownership over her ambitions. No longer was she merely a single mother subject to the whims of others, she was Emma, a woman carving her own path. With newfound resolve, she took a step back. "I appreciate your honesty, really. But I need to be certain. What did that certainty look like?" The reality of a single choice intertwined with a cascade of future implications began to crystallize in her mind. In this dance of vulnerability, she discovered that she was capable of more than she had ever realized. "Let's just focus on our studies for now," she proposed, conscious of the shift in their dynamic. Jack nodded, but as they returned to class, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that a line had been drawn in the sand, a threshold crossed. Would their relationship become a source of strength in her journey, or would it devolve into a distraction? The uncertainty lingered, stinging at the edges of her resolve. Class discussions ignited sparks of ambition, yet doubts about Jack began to weave themselves back into her thoughts. As the fire of determination flickered, Emma felt compelled to ask herself a crucial question: what if she had the power to cultivate opportunities worth taking risks over? Tomorrow awaited, bringing with it new challenges that could define her trajectory forever. Would Emma summon the courage to probe deeper, not just into her relationship with Jack but also into the untapped reservoirs of her own potential? The day spun toward her like a whirlwind, and she braced herself for whatever would come next. The journey had become a crucible, and it was ripe with the necessity of discovery. Not just of others, but of herself. Under the weight of her internal conflicts, Emma set her sights on the coming days. The classroom buzz faded into distant murmurs as her thoughts spiraled around the pivotal conversation with Jack. Though she returned to her seat, the rhythmic scratching of pens against paper refocused her anxious mind. Could she truly navigate this intricate balance between personal security and professional ambition? The next morning dawned with a stubborn clarity. Emma stood in front of the mirror, her reflection a fleeting reminder of the woman she used to be. She meticulously applied her makeup, each stroke a reaffirmation of control. Today, she was determined to silence the lingering doubts that threatened to drown her newfound resolve. As she walked through the university's bustling corridors, Emma felt herself pulled toward the faculty lounge. She hesitated at the door. It was a space teeming with influential colleagues. Initiating conversations here could lead to unexpected opportunities. Yet, each nerve in her body screamed for retreat. What if her ambitions were dismissed? In a moment of impulsive conviction, she opened the door. The chatter hushed, heads turning. Familiar faces surrounded her, some friendly, others etched with the weight of authority. Each glance felt like a scrutiny of her experience level, a judgment branding her as either competent or an imposter. Emma made her way across the room. She overheard snippets of conversation about research grants and upcoming lectures, fires igniting her competitive spirit. Could she, a solo mother with steadfast dreams, also pursue groundbreaking ideas? "Hey, Emma!" called a colleague, Rachel, breaking through her internal monologue. "Have you thought more about the grant proposal? We could really use your insights." Emma's heart raced. The opportunity to contribute meant she could reclaim a part of herself that had been overshadowed by motherhood and self-doubt. "I have some ideas," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Rachel's enthusiasm was infectious, and suddenly, Emma found herself discussing project outlines and research methodologies. Each contribution solidified her position, revealing a conviction she hadn't acknowledged before. As if a switch flipped, she spoke with a passion that astonished even herself. Afterward, Emma stepped outside, breathless from the exchange. She realized that engaging with her colleagues had not only highlighted her capabilities but also diminished the noise of doubt. Could taking risks like this be the key to uncovering her potential? She looked toward the horizon, contemplating Jack's words from their earlier conversation. If he truly intended to support her, there might be an organic way to involve him in her professional sphere. She needed to confront the intertwining of their personal and professional lives to see how they could fortify one another rather than tear her apart. That afternoon, she messaged Jack, proposing an informal brainstorming session for their upcoming projects. Emma held her breath, gripping her phone as she waited. A response arrived swiftly, reaffirming his interest in collaboration. But the exhilaration soon curled into insecurity. Could she truly dedicate herself to this partnership while protecting her dreams? Emma took a long breath, attempting to ground herself as the thoughts churned anew. As the week unfolded, Emma's ambitions continued to blossom. She immersed herself in research and discussions, finding clarity and perspective she hadn't thought possible. Each successful endeavor strengthened her resolve to embrace this newfound momentum, yet, buried beneath her accomplishments was a nagging fear. What if her connection with Jack disrupted her gains? As she peeled away layers of achievement, she recognized the uncharted territory of vulnerability that lay ahead, waiting for her at the intersection of ambition and interpersonal connection. With every new thread of potential intricately woven into her life, Emma stood at a juncture. The question loomed, could embracing her feelings for Jack fortify her journey, or would it derail her aspirations entirely? As she pondered this crossroads, doubts lingered, and Emma braced herself for the tumultuous path ahead. Tomorrow would bring another chance to explore the confrontation of both her heart and her career. As she prepared to delve deeper, she felt an electric tension. The moment had come to reveal what true courage truly meant and to face the complexities of letting someone into her whirlwind of dreams. Would she seize this opportunity, or would fear clench its grip once more? The morning sun spilled golden rays through her bedroom window, casting a warm glow on Emma as she wrestled with the new day. Today, the stakes felt higher. The thought of her brainstorming session with Jack loomed large in her mind. It was not just a professional meeting but also a step into uncharted territory. Her heart raced, a mixture of excitement and apprehension swelling within. As Emma gathered her notes and supplies, she spotted the small collection of reminders on her desk. Notes from her recent successes, articles she had read, and even snippets of encouragement from Rachel. Each paper served as a tangible reminder of her capabilities and the strides she had made. She couldn't afford to forget that she held the power to steer her own path. With a final glance in the mirror for a semblance of composure, she departed her home. The drive to the university felt longer than usual, her thoughts churning with the possibilities and risks in front of her. Did she truly possess the fortitude to forge a connection with Jack, intertwining their lives as partners in more ways than one? Emma arrived early, a solitary moment of calm before the storm of collaboration and open communication began. The table in the meeting room overlooked the sprawling campus, the hustle of students and faculty reminiscent of the buzz within her. The chatter felt distant as she settled into her thoughts, mentally preparing her ideas and strategies. Jack entered a few minutes later, carrying a stack of documents and wearing an endearing smile that softened the pulse of her nerves. He greeted her warmly, and for a fleeting moment, the weight on her shoulders lifted. They exchanged pleasantries, but Emma's heart beat erratically. She sensed the edges of their relationship were about to shift. As they began, Jack encouraged her to lead the discussion. His unwavering support was both emboldening and challenging. This was her moment to embrace authority. She had to fight the instinct to defer to him. With palpable determination, she launched into her ideas, unfolding her vision for their joint project. Each point articulated carefully, Emma felt the clarity of her thoughts resonate through the room. Jack listened intently, nodding, contributing insightful commentary that enriched her framework. Emma reveled in the exchange. His encouragement acted as fuel, igniting parts of her identity she had kept dormant. Yet, the more she spoke, the more a dissonance grew within her. Beneath the excitement lurked the growing fear of misalignments in their partnership. What if Jack's perspectives diverged from hers, or worse, what if personal feelings tainted their collaboration? As the discussion deepened, occurred the inevitable shift, a moment when professional masks slipped to reveal the vulnerabilities beneath. "You know," Jack said, his tone shifting to a more intimate cadence, "I see so much potential in what you're doing here. More than you sometimes give yourself credit for." His words held weight, and with that, a swell of gratitude nearly overpowered her resolve. Just as she prepared to respond, the fragile walls of self-doubt loomed. Would answering him compromise the boundaries she desperately needed to maintain, or could she acknowledge their mutual aspirations without faltering? Taking a breath, Emma chose truth over caution. "Thank you, Jack. I've struggled with believing in my capabilities, but each step I take, I feel a spark that I can't ignore." The vulnerable answer hung in the air, marked by a charged silence. She saw Jack process her words, his expression shifting into something deeper. It was a fleeting glance, the spark of understanding that sought to illuminate the complex dynamic already forming between them, but reality crashed back with the weight of self-preservation. Was this connection truly sustainable? The question spiraled through Emma's mind like a tempest. Could they collaborate effectively without romance interfering, or would she forever be haunted by the what-ifs if she allowed herself to lean into the chemistry between them? The discussion culminated in a fruitful exchange of ideas, setting the stage for future collaboration, yet the underlying tension simmered. As they left the meeting, Emma knew the stakes had risen, and her journey beyond mere academic ambition was about to unfold. She walked away, heart racing, contemplating her next move. Would she dare pursue this dance of connection with Jack, or would her trepidation anchor her to safe mediocrity? It was a critical juncture that faced her anew, a whisper promising potential yet cautioning against the unknown. Tomorrow would demand clarity, where ambition and emotion would collide. How could she navigate the coalescing paths without losing sight of who she wanted to be? The night wore on, and Emma found herself sprawled on her couch, her notes scattered around her like leaves in fall. The words from their discussion echoed in her mind, swirling in a vortex of excitement and uncertainty. She had taken her first steps toward authenticity, embracing her vision with unexpected tenacity. Yet, the more she reflected, the more her thoughts spiraled into a labyrinth of doubt. Could she balance the growing bond with Jack while still maintaining her individual identity? Each time their eyes met, a flicker of possibility ignited, but with it came the dread of losing herself in the mix. Emma picked up a half-finished manuscript. Her work remained unfinished, reflecting her scattered focus. She sighed, realizing that the project had to serve as both a professional tool and a personal launchpad. It threatened to slip through her fingers if she didn't re-establish her priorities. With purpose, she gathered the piles of notes, sifting through them to reconstruct her vision. The act of organizing reignited her spark, reminding her that clarity often lay in structure. This time, she began crafting a roadmap for her professional journey, transmuting scattered ideas into actionable steps. She utilized sticky notes, each bright hue representing a specific goal. The first was to define her personal mission. As she pulled out her laptop, her fingers hesitated over the keyboard, heart racing. Words were waiting to be born, but first, she needed to confront the questions plaguing her. Who was Emma beyond the expectations placed upon her? What did she truly want from this partnership with Jack? The questions felt heavier than she'd anticipated, weighing on her with an intensity that sent her spiraling toward the couch again. It was an uncomfortable place to be, peering into the depths of her own psyche. She needed to delve deeper to unearth her motivations and desires. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes, envisioning herself in a room full of peers. Would she seek validation from them, or was her pursuit enough? Emma perceived a hint of resistance at the thought, her pulse quickened. She resisted the urge to shrink back. Unlike before, when she had often deferred her decisions to others, this moment felt pivotal. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, drawing her back to the surface. It was a message from Jack, both an invitation for another brainstorming session and a simple query about lunch. The prospect of spending more time with him only further clouded her thoughts. Lunch meant another chance for connection, another potential leap into the unknown. Emma's instinct was to deflect, yet she realized that avoidance would offer no resolution. Instead, she contemplated how to frame their next encounter. If she was to navigate these waters successfully, she wouldn't approach Jack solely as a colleague but as a collaborator with ideas to share and boundaries to establish. The prospect of articulating her intentions both thrilled and frightened her. Emma feverishly typed a reply, deciding to meet him but vowing to steer the conversation toward clarity in their objectives. She would not shy away from discussing her insecurities nor dismiss the burgeoning chemistry between them. This was a professional venture where both ambition and vulnerability could coexist. As she hit send, the abrupt clang of uncertainty rang in her ears. The stakes felt higher, and her heart raced. In embracing this next step, would she spiral further into complexity, or would she carve out a new path that defined her? Emma leaned against the couch, contemplating her response, an exhilarating collision of hope and fear. Tomorrow promised not just another meeting, but potentially the pivotal moment that could decisively shape her career and personal life. What would unfold at lunch? Would it crystallize her path or stir unknown complications? The answers tantalized her, a looming precipice of realization waiting to be confronted. Emma's mind raced, the junction of ambition and emotion had arrived, but could she truly fearlessly embrace it? Emma stood in front of her bathroom mirror the next morning, scrutinizing her reflection as if attempting to unearth deeper truths hidden within her features. Her expression was a delicate balance of determination and trepidation, and she recognized the symbolism in this confrontation. This was not merely about preparing for lunch, it was about fortifying her identity in the face of uncertainty. Today, she was more than a writer. She was a woman ready to demand her worth. Doubt crept in like a shadow, whispering that her confidence was an illusion. Yet, she silenced that voice through deliberate action, applying a bold shade of lipstick that matched the colorful sticky notes she had crafted. Each stroke felt empowering. It was more than paint on her lips, it was a declaration, a reminder that she was in control. As she boarded the train to the cafe, the rhythmic clatter of wheels against tracks provided a soundtrack to her racing thoughts. Was Jack simply a colleague, or would their partnership evolve beyond professional camaraderie? The dual layers of thrill and fear kissed her thoughts like a summer breeze, refreshing yet unsettling. Upon arriving at the cafe, Emma spotted Jack seated at a small table, his brows furrowed over open notebooks, an electric blue pen in hand. He looked up, and their eyes met, igniting the spark but also revealing an undercurrent of anxiety. She walked over with purpose, determined to embrace the fusion of ambition and vulnerability she had envisioned. "Hey," she greeted him, the single word suffused with both warmth and resolve. As she took a seat, she summoned the confidence fueled by the self-commitment she'd made the night before. "Morning, Emma," he replied, his smile mirroring the excitement reflected in her own heart. "Did you think more about our project?" The moment felt pivotal, like a boiling pot ready to overflow. She nodded, taking a breath before she spoke. "I want to discuss not just the project but our roles. I think clarity on both fronts is essential for collaboration." Jack leaned back, eyes narrowing slightly with intrigue. "Sounds good," he encouraged, shifting his weight toward her, ready to engage. Emma's heart beat faster, each thought affirming her resolve despite the apprehension bubbling beneath. She couldn't afford to hesitate now. I've been reflecting on what I bring to this partnership. I want to ensure that while we work together, my voice remains distinct. I need to define my vision clearly. The weight of her words filled the space between them. Jack nodded thoughtfully. I appreciate your candidness. I want that two clear avenues for both our ideas. Relief washed over her, and something thawed within as their conversation deepened, revealing a shared understanding that felt exhilarating. They exchanged ideas and aspirations, weaving their thoughts into an intricate tapestry of collaboration. Yet, the deeper they went, Emma sensed a delicate balance hanging in the air like a quiet symphony waiting to turn into a crescendo. Then, as they flowed seamlessly into discussions of personal ambitions, Emma's vulnerability tugged at her, a desire to reveal not just her professional dreams but the underlying fears that haunted her. She had always framed herself as a climber on the corporate ladder, but what if she unveiled her uncertainties about relationships? Jack, she began, her voice steadying, can I share something personally vulnerable with you? He nodded, eyes fixed on her with earnest anticipation. Every inch of her screamed at her to pull back, to protect herself, but she resisted. This was growth, an opportunity to engage in a way that demanded sincerity from both of them. Before she could speak, her phone buzzed, interrupting the moment. A text from an old acquaintance flashed on the screen. Hey! Long time. Let us catch up. The message sent her spiraling. Why now? That pivotal fork in the road had emerged again, challenging her focus. Jack's eyes flickered to her phone, curiosity sparking in their depths. Emma was caught between maintaining the trust she had just begun to build with Jack and a past that had always loomed there, unresolved. What would she choose? Would she delve deeper into her emerging bond with Jack, or would she delay that connection to revisit an unresolved chapter? The air thickened with tension as she faced not only Jack's gaze but also the choice that could alter everything. The moment of truth was dawning, and Emma felt the weight of her past and future colliding. What would she reveal, and at what cost? Emma swallowed hard, feeling the weight of Jack's gaze and the insistent ping of the phone in her hand. Her old acquaintance was like a ghost from the past, one she had tried to bury beneath her ambition and the new paths she was forging. The familiar name clung to her thoughts, unsettling her burgeoning confidence. This is my chance, she thought grimly. The tempting tendrils of nostalgia were tugging at her, daring her to slip back into a place where uncertainties reigned and self-doubt festered. But it's also a distraction. She wanted so badly to focus on what was blossoming before her right now, on Jack's attentive expression, the budding connection at the center of their professional discussion. Jack's expression shifted from curiosity to mild concern as he noticed the change in her demeanor. Everything okay? He inquired, his voice gentle yet probing, trying to mask her inner turmoil. She nodded slowly. Yeah, just, a message from someone I haven't heard from in years. Her own admission felt like a tentative step across a precipice. I didn't think I'd hear from them again. Is it someone important? He leaned in, genuine interest illuminating his expression. His attention felt like a lifeline, one that anchored her even as her thoughts threatened to sink her. Not important, just, complicated, she replied, her voice heavier than she intended. The vulnerability she'd begun to uncover in their dialogue now felt threatened, swaying precariously with every tick of the clock. For a moment, they were locked in a suspended stare, one that asked questions but dared not voice them. But Emma didn't want to dismiss the connection growing between them. This was the moment to choose courage over comfort, to step forward rather than retreat into past shadows. She took a breath, steeling herself. I want to be transparent with you, Jack. I've been working hard to keep my focus on my writing and this project. But I feel a pull back. It's easy to slip back into old patterns when faced with the unknown. Jack's brow furrowed with understanding. What patterns? The straightforward question ruffled her internal narrative, forcing her to confront what she had spent years avoiding. The fear of intimacy and vulnerability, she confessed. Every time I connect with someone, there's this nagging voice that suggests I should brace myself for the inevitable disappointment. It's as if I sabotage myself before anyone else comes into the picture. The words tumbled forth, each syllable a small step in owning her truth. Jack contemplated her admission, his features softening. "Emma, vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. If we're going to collaborate, I think it's essential we both bring our whole selves to the table. It can be hard, but the payoff is worth it. I'd like to know you not just as a colleague but as a person." His sincerity resonated deep within her. Here was someone who genuinely cared and sought a shared depth. But even so, the struggle to let her guard down remained imminent. She felt the urgency of her decision pressing against her chest. What if revealing too much could shatter this fragile connection? But as she glanced again at the message on her phone, she noticed the looming shadows of the past contrasting starkly with the light ahead represented by Jack. Another chance at connection or a continued dance with isolation? "I'm willing to try," Emma said, voice stronger than her initial trepidation suggested. "To embrace vulnerability, even if it feels risky." Before Jack could respond, the cafe's ambience shifted, the soft chatter around them transformed into an overwhelming cacophony of sensations. Her heart raced as she recognized that this was more than just a meeting between collaborators. It was a pivotal moment in defining who she was becoming. What surprised her, though, was the latent burst of excitement within her. Perhaps this path demanded more than she was prepared for, but wasn't that the essence of growth? Caught between the past's cling and the future's promise, Emma knew she teetered at a precipice. It was time to leap. Yet, as she prepared to dive deeper into this newfound territory of trust and collaboration with Jack, her phone buzzed again, this time with a call. She hesitated, staring at the screen before looking back at Jack. Would she answer the call, further complicating the fragile thread they had woven? Or would she silence the ring and fully step into the moment, embracing all the uncertainties that came with it? As she weighed her options, the call echoed eerily. A realization had begun to dawn: the deeper the engagement, the more perilous the stakes. Emma tightened her grip on the edge of the table, knowing one choice could spiral her into either commitment or chaos. And in that decisive moment, the boundary between the past and the future began to blur, leaving her apprehensively at the intersection of revelation and risk. Would she turn away or lean in fully to the possibilities unfolding before her? Emma could sense the weight of the phone against her palm, the vibration pulsing like a heartbeat, both familiar and foreign. She wanted to ignore it, knowing that a phone call could drag her back into the shadows of her past she had vowed to escape. But the part of her that craved connection, that was drawn to Jack's earnest gaze, was warring with a fear that it might all unravel. With a determined exhale, she silenced the call, letting the phone slip back into her pocket. She had chosen the uncertain, precarious step forward instead of retreating to an old narrative. Jack shifted slightly, his expression filled with encouragement. "You okay? You seem like you're in your head a bit," he said, his eyes searching hers. "I am," she admitted. "But I think I made the right choice." She hesitated only a moment before continuing, "I want to be brave." There was something exhilarating about acknowledging her vulnerability. It was as if she had taken a knife and cut away a part of the old fabric that had long cloaked her. "You are being brave, Emma," Jack affirmed. "It's not easy to share what's difficult. But it's a step to growing beyond those patterns, right?" This simple understanding radiated warmth through her. Emma realized that she hadn't just chosen a professional collaboration with Jack, she had unknowingly entered into an alliance for deeper personal growth. The prospect filled her with determination, intertwining ambition and emotional exploration in a way she hadn't anticipated. "I've struggled with balancing my professional life and my personal fears," she said, testing the waters of this new openness. Jack nodded, his attentive demeanor encouraging her to continue. "What do you think holds you back the most?" The openness of Jack's question echoed in her mind, and she felt a deeper layer of self-exploration begin to unfurl. "It's been easier to present a polished version of myself, one that's always in control, always productive. I think I've missed out on genuine connections in the process." As she spoke, Emma noticed a certain lightness in her heart. Each confession crafted a path forward, illuminating shadows she had held so tightly to. "Emma, it's all right to be imperfect," Jack replied gently. "Imperfect doesn't mean less valuable. Perhaps finding that authenticity is what your writing has been longing for too. His encouragement tugged at an ambition she had shelved for too long, an ambition to be honest not only in her work but in her relationships. The realization dawned on her: if she were to tackle the rawness of her past through her writing, she had to embrace that same rawness in her life. What if I challenged myself to embrace more imperfection? She pondered aloud. The idea felt like diving into a pool of cold water, shocking yet awakening. Why not start here and now? Jack suggested. What would it look like to write unashamedly, exposing yourself to the twisted fears and tangled truths that often suffocate creativity? Emma's heart raced at the challenge, but there was also a flicker of exhilaration. She held the reins of her narrative. It would mean being honest about my fears, regrets, and victories, instead of curating a perfect story. It could also mean forming genuine connections with others, including me, Jack added, his eyes gleaming with understanding. The words sank deep within Emma as she considered the potential for authenticity in both her personal life and her professional ambitions. There was a universe of possibilities. The vulnerability she had feared suddenly looked like a doorway inviting her to step through. As the conversation flowed, Emma began envisioning her writing not just as a solitary endeavor but as a shared experience laden with the honesty of her own journey. The image sparked something new, a clarity, an urgency to connect the fragments she had fractured. Just then, her phone vibrated again, dragging her attention back to reality. She bit her lip, uncertainty washing over her. Was it the ghost from the past again? Or perhaps the opportunity she'd always been waiting for? This time, the stakes felt higher. Either destiny awaited her call or the opportunity to confront her past would slip through her fingers. Are you okay? Jack asked, a hint of concern lacing his voice. Emma hesitated once more, the tension crackling in the air. Would she summon the courage to handle what came next, or would she let history dictate her present once more? Locked within that moment of choice, she felt as if the universe was holding its breath in tandem with her own. Emma stood at the edge of transformation, her heart racing with each moment's wait. As Jack observed her with unerring patience, she acknowledged the waves of uncertainty that had shadowed her journey thus far. Each hesitation, each moment of doubt felt like dense fog lifting, revealing an expansive landscape of possibilities. Summoning her inner strength, Emma took a deep breath and spoke, her voice steady yet resolute. I need to focus on this new chapter in my life, on carving out my own narrative without the pull of the past. Today, I choose to honor my ambitions both as a mother and as a professional. Jack's eyes lit up with understanding, revealing the layer of support she had sought without yet identifying. Let us work on this together, then. Commit to embracing both our personal journeys and our collaborations openly, he encouraged, gently grasping her arm, an anchor in that moment. A rush of clarity surged through Emma, she felt lighter, almost elated. The burden of her past began to dissipate, replaced by a determination to confront her realities with authenticity. This realization sparked a vision, her concept for a groundbreaking project in the nursing field, one that blended clinical insight with personal storytelling, aimed at transforming patient care through empathetic understanding. With newfound purpose, Emma dove into her notes, combing through her ideas with fervor. The potential to synthesize her experiences as a mother and her studies burgeoned into a mission worth pursuing. Writing became a tool for her growth, a means to express the intertwining of her personal and professional journeys, an intertwining she had long resisted. What if we present this as a dual project? Your writing and our research together, Jack proposed, enthusiasm shining in his voice. We can both advocate for our shared vision of healthcare through empathy and connection. Emma's heart soared at the suggestion. Collaborating with Jack felt promising, an intertwining of their aspirations rather than a dilution of identity. Yes. Together, we can really make an impact, she affirmed, excitement bubbling in her chest. As they engaged in a vibrant discussion, Emma's confidence solidified. The anxieties that once tethered her to self-doubt faded into the background. She wasn't merely navigating an academic opportunity, she was reclaiming her narrative and transforming it into a beacon of inspiration. Days passed, and with each brainstorming session, Emma grew more assured in her role. She embraced her newfound confidence, initiating conversations with peers, and seeking collaborations. The whispers of doubt from the town's gossip faded into silence, and she no longer felt like an imposter. She was forging pathways into her future. By the time the semester drew to a close, Emma stood confidently before her instructors, ready to present her project proposal. The room buzzed with anticipation as she articulated her vision with clarity, connecting her journey, her research, and her aspirations in a manner that felt organic and strong. At that moment, she achieved not just academic success, but personal triumph. Her presentation was received with enthusiasm and respect. The acknowledgement of her efforts not only validated her status as a nursing student but also as a woman who conquered the trials of fear. With the sound of applause ringing in her ears, Emma glanced at Jack, who grinned back with pride. She knew that their partnership had blossomed not solely in academia but in a deeper understanding of each other's strengths. Later, as she drove home, the sunset painted the sky in hues of possibility. Emma's heart swelled with fulfillment. She had transformed her life narrative by reconciling ambition with vulnerability, building confidence with each step taken outside her comfort zone. Now, when she locked her eyes with her children, the safety she once sought in mundane stability had shifted. She was a living testament that dreams, no matter how hollow they seemed in darkness, could be illuminated through unwavering belief and profound courage. Emma had disrupted the cycle of doubt and forged a new inheritance for her children, one of tenacity and persistence. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she whispered softly to herself, "This is just the beginning. Remember, this journey of transformation is a shared experience." If you found comfort in Emma's story, you need to subscribe now for more exclusive tales of emotional growth. Your support matters. Leave a like now to keep these powerful narratives alive. We value your thoughts, so comment below with your reactions and theories about Emma's remarkable journey. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the beauty of personal overcoming. Together, let us inspire and motivate.